All right, everyone. I think we're ready to start. First of all, I would like to introduce Brian and Mike from Wonder Workshop, who are over in the States, and it's a very late night for them. So thank you very much for joining us. And so today we are having a webinar about Dash's Neighborhood and Class Connect. So I will give the word to Mike and Brian from Wonder Workshop to kick it off. And as we said before, please make sure that your mic is muted and your camera is off. Any questions that you have, feel free to add them in the chat. We will try to answer them during the webinar, but we will make sure that every question will be answered at the end during Q&A as well. So Mike and Brian, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Eva. And welcome everyone. Hope you're having a very nice afternoon over there in Australia. My name is Mike Lorian. I run the education division of Wonder Workshop. Joining me today is Brian Miller, and Brian is our Senior Director of Global Strategic Outreach for Wonder Workshop, and we both have been with Wonder Workshop since 2016, a year after Dash was brought into the marketplace. And so we're happy to be with you today. One of the things that we want to talk to you a little bit about today is really to not only look at, our product line in general, but I think most of all, what are some of the solutions that schools need given the current situation between COVID, between trying to decide whether you're going to go into a hybrid learning environment, whether you're in class learning environment, or if you're a homeschooling learning environment, and trying to see, what is the best way to implement coding and robotics solutions in your everyday classrooms. So we'll go through some of that today. And again, at the end, we'd love to have your questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian. And we'll start with some of the resources that we have that we call My Wonder Workshop portal. So take it away, Brian.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, everyone. It's a pleasure to connect with you. For me, it's almost midnight here in the United States. I live in Florida, but I hope everyone, as Mike mentioned, is having a wonderful afternoon in Australia. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to start talking about, as Mike mentioned, some of the free resources that we have available for you that are aside from Class Connect and Dash's Neighborhood, because we want you to know that we have a lot of great tools and items that are available for you to use completely free of charge as you are using whether it's our Dash's Neighborhood, our virtual robot, or our physical robots, Dash and Q. So I have my buddy Dash right here with me, of course. He never leaves my side. So we have a lot of great things that are happening and that we've created available for free for educators. And we're sharing a couple of them on screen here. And I'm going to actually, when I go into the demo, I'm going to show you where all that stuff is located as well. So what do we have available for free? Well, in light of COVID, we spent a lot of time right as it started happening, creating a home learner toolkit. And what this allowed people to do at home, whether they're teachers or parents, was have just a one-stop shop to all of the free great resources that we have available for you, such as coloring pages and virtual blocks that you can download and print out, mazes, fun offline activities and some fun online activities as well that are completely free and available, such as videos and other things. So we put them into one central location and we wanted to make them available to you. So I'll show you where that's at when I do the on-screen demo. The other piece that we've created was our Teach Wonder Home Learning Edition. And we have our virtual learning courses, which are asynchronous classes that are about 12 hours each for whether it's the Dash and Dot course or it's the Q course. We put together a home learning edition, which was really designed for a parent or an educator that just wanted to get a brief understanding of how the robots work inside of their space and what they might be able to be used for. So that's available as well, and I can show you where that's at also. We also launched back in April, we did our first virtual summit. And then in October, we rebranded it to the International STEAM Summit. So right now we have available for replay over 50 hours of free content from all about STEAM education, because this is, not just Wonder Workshop's products, but we showcase a lot of other great tools and resources that are out there all around STEAM. And it's available for you to watch back, and it's completely free. And you can go and do that at virtual.internationalsteamsummit.com. Then we also have our 30-day free trial of Dash's Neighborhood and Class Connect, which we will be showing you today. And we also have all of the free content that's a part of our Wonder League robotics competition. And a lot of people think, I have to sign up and I have to do the competition in order to get the content. Well, that's not the case. You can sign up as a coach, even though you might not be using or doing a team this year because of the time of the school year for all of you, or because in light of COVID, you're able to sign up as a coach and gain access to all of the free content that's in there as well. So I highly recommend, even if you are not going to be a coach and be coaching a team this year, to still sign up as a coach because you'll be able to get all of that wonderful free content that we've created for you with our partners at the Cartoon Network. So as all of this stuff has happened and we don't know what's happening inside of our lives, we wanted to make sure that all this great free content was available and in one place for all of you, which I'll be showing you where that is at. We also have, at this point, started creating, and in April of this past year, we launched Dash's Neighborhood and Class Connect. So what we were able to do is we took Class Connect, which we launched back in November of last year, and that is it's our coding-focused learning management system. And we were able to incorporate all of the great tools that were a part of Class Connect and introduce Dash's Neighborhood into that. So within our success packs, we have the subscriptions that are available, which gives you a one-stop shop for everything that you need around coding and robotics inside of a learning platform, which is Class Connect. And everything that you'll be seeing today is a part of the Class Connect subscription. So you can use the free trial and play with it for 30 days. And after those 30 days, then you can register for the subscription for that. But everything is bundled inside of Class Connect, which also has Dash's Neighborhood inside of it as well. Mike, do you want to share a little bit about Dash's Neighborhood?
Sure. One of the things that we saw was that especially in our current situation with COVID, it was going to be difficult for teachers to have the ability to actually have their students experience physical robots, because as we see this notion of learning coding, we think it's very important to add at least the physical aspect to it so that the students can solve real problems that they may encounter. So one of the things that we did was said, well, if we can't have a physical robot, what if we took the functionality of Dash and built a virtual robot with it? And so that's what we've done in something called Dash's Neighborhood, where we take all of the Blockly puzzles that are available. So there's well over 40 plus puzzles and challenges that students can go through and be able to create code for it and then execute that code via the virtual robot. The nice thing too is, though, if they do have access to a physical robot, they can take that same code and run it on the physical robot. So they get to experience the best of both worlds. And there's a number of advantages that this gives students, because as you go through the building blocks of coding through those puzzles, you can get the right progression of activities, and then with Class Connect, track all the student performance against that.
And when we do the demo, you'll see how all of this interacts and works. And as Mike mentioned, we've taken the Blockly environment that your students may be familiar with if they've used the physical Dash robot, and we've now put this on the web. So everything that you're going to be able to do is available on code.makewonder.com, which I will be diving in and showing you exactly how all of that works. But now what you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen when we do the demo is you will see the virtual Dash. And that virtual Dash does everything that the physical Dash does, which I will be spending time showing you as well. So
what's nice with that, excuse me, let me just add this one point. What's nice is that now you have anytime, anywhere, any platform access to a coding and robotics environment.
And that's important because we know that the learning of computer science just doesn't happen at school, and it shouldn't stop at school. It should continue at home. And especially with hybrid learning, now students would be able to use the physical Dash robot when they're in school and a virtual robot if you are teaching in a hybrid environment or if you're teaching online. And when they're at home, they could be interacting with the virtual robot as well. So let's talk about some of these features, which we just briefly touched on a little bit. The first is one robot for every student. Now, this is wonderful because what this allows, and us at Wonder Workshop, the stuff that we've created, especially around in-class lessons and activities, are all about collaboration. But we know that there needs to be a time that students are able to work independently to work through some of the lessons and activities that teach them the foundations of computer science. And before, you had to wait until you had access to use a physical Dash robot to do that. So you would do the puzzles, you would test them out on a physical Dash robot, and then you would continue on with the puzzles. Well, that requires a lot of physical robots, and that gets to be quite expensive. So for the price of what it would have costed you for 6 physical robots for your classroom, we can equip an entire classroom with a virtual robot. And that is extremely powerful because now the students are able to go in and prototype on their own robot and be able to test everything out and see how it works inside of a virtual world. So we can see that there's differentiated learning for every student. They can easily practice and continue projects in class or at home. So wherever they're working, they'll be able to continue where they left off because everything is saved in the cloud. And then it saves time with setting up and tearing down, especially in light of COVID. We have schools and districts all across the world that have contacted us and said, we don't have the ability to teach inside of a physical classroom with these robots right now, just because of the cleaning that needs to go on, or we don't have a library or maker space that we're able to bring all of our students to work out of because we have our school situation set up a little bit differently. So with Dash's Neighborhood, you don't have to worry about any of that because they are all working on their own device using their own virtual robot. Mike, you want to share the next one?
Sure. The nice part too is that we've done a great job in actually simulating all the different functionality that you have in Dash. And so this way you're able to engage every student. As we said, it really helps students save a lot of time as they iterate their own programs. And then I think the other part is it really helps develop those 21st century skills and then you can enrich the experience with the physical robot and the things when they are able to collaborate and they are able to get back into the classroom. So again, we really think this is truly a best of all world scenario.
Yep. And next we have works with Blockly Puzzles and Class Connect. So you're going to see that this entire system goes back and connects to Class Connect. So as your students are working on all of the Blockly puzzles, which are scaffolded lessons that align with our scope and sequence, which aligns to all of code.org's scope and sequence as well, you are able to see on the teacher's backend inside of the LMS the code that the students have created, how long they've spent on it, and additional activities as well. So you're able to now save time on a pathway to provide basic coding literacy for students. So you put them on the platform, they're able to work through all of those scaffolded lessons and activities. Then you can start implementing coding and robotics without any coding experience. So the beauty here, which I'm going to show you, as an educator who may not have ever taught computer science before and may not yet feel comfortable teaching it, we give you the resources to understand what the students are learning and also even help diagnose whatever the lessons are that they're working on if they are running into trouble, which is such a great piece as well. And then it makes coding and robotics learning relevant to everyday subjects because all of our coding activities can align to different subject areas inside of our lesson portal, which I will be showing you as well. Mike, you want to take the last one here?
And then finally, if you have students that are accelerating at different paces, not only does Class Connect track that, but it also gives students the ability to explore on their own. So they don't have to follow all of the puzzle activities. They can create their own activities. They can create their own programs. So if they want to get, a little bit more ambitious in the problems they're trying to solve, they're able to do that. Or if students are working and not really understanding a concept, as Brian said, Class Connect gives teachers the ability to look at those students, look at their work, and understand where they're stumbling and help them with that.
All right, so I'm actually going to switch my slides here, and I'm going to be showing you our portal first, and then I'm going to be going into our code.makewonder.com. So the first part here is we have our portal, which is portal.makewonder.com. So when you visit the Wonder Workshop website, everything that you see on that side of the site is really our marketing pages, and it gets into a little bit of educational content, but it's not really where teachers go to get everything that they need to be successful in the classroom. So we developed portal.makewonder.com. That is the one-stop shop for everything that you need as an educator, and all the tools and resources are found in here in this one-stop shop. So it's free to register for. You just need to create an account. You can sign in with Google single sign-on, or you can use your email address. But once you're logged in, you are then taken into our portal screen here. And we have a couple of things on here that I want to show you before I dive in to Class Connect, because I did mention some of them. So the first thing here that when you log in, as we see right at the top, is all of our Class Connect tools. So it's our Blockly dashboard, which is the coding focused learning management system, as I mentioned. And then we have our Code with Blockly students, which is code.makewonder.com. Underneath that, we have some different activities. So we have where you can register, as I mentioned, for free for the Wonderly Robotics Competition. So you can go through and access all of the great free content that's found in there. We also have our Wonder Workshop curriculum that is found in here. And this is really where all of our Blockly puzzles that you will be seeing as I do the demo, you're going to see the different scope and sequence that we're following. So if I go in here, I can see this is the scope and sequence that is followed. So when they first start the puzzles, you're able to see what levels they're working out of. So if you're curious as to what level A is, you can see that level A falls under kindergarten, which is sequencing and loops. Level B, it gets a little bit harder. It introduces events. In level C, it reinforces events. And then it starts to get into some more advanced computer science concepts for grades 3, 4, and 5, which are conditionals, functions, and variables. What you can also do inside of this page, which I love, is you can go in and click on any of these tabs that are found here at the top, and you are able to get a series of different free downloadable lessons. So an unplugged activity, and every single one of our coding levels has at least one unplugged activity, doesn't require any technology at all. So you can do this without the use of a machine, without the use of a robot. Then we get into some more of the lessons that introduce some of these skills, but the students will be learning all of these different pieces inside of our scope and sequence as they are going through the Blockly puzzles. So I'm going to jump back over here to our portal. And
what's nice about this as well is you have, at the end of every level, you also have the assessment built in. So you can go back and review those skills and see how students are performing against them.
Yep. Then in here, we also have Teach Wonder, which is the asynchronous online course that I mentioned. We have things like our Global Educator Community, which is a Facebook community with almost 2,000 educators from across the world. So you can sign up and become a part of that for free. Here is the Home Learning Toolkit, as I mentioned. So this is where you have all of the free activities that are available. So you can go in here and you would choose that you are an educator. And inside of this, we have all these great pulled out activities like Dash's coloring book. My favorite here, I spent maybe about 3 years ago, an entire summer digitizing all of the Blockly cutouts or all of the Blockly pieces. So you can physically cut these out, and then you can arrange them on a board or on the floor. And it's a great way to just prototype before you jump onto a device as well. So that's a great little unplugged activity that's available. We have other things like our Dash and Dot show, our curriculum library, links to the virtual summit, all sorts of things that are found inside of here. Another one that I want to quickly point out that I love is this printout, which are robotics team roles. So as your students are working with the robots, we want to assign them a role so they know what they're doing. So we have these little task cards that you can print out and give to the student so they know exactly what it is that they are doing when they are working with the robots. So we have a whole bunch of different ones here that they could work through. So just some really great resources that are available in there. And then we have some extended resources as well, such as our getting started guides for Dash, Dot, and Q. But what we're going to spend some time in here doing is taking a look at our Class Connect platform, and then I'm going to go into Dash's neighborhood. So I'm going to click in here, and when I click inside of the Blockly dashboard, it takes me into a classroom that I've built out. So I've built out just a test class here, but I'm going to go over to the Classrooms tab so you can see how easy this is to create a classroom of students. Now, based on the subscription that you purchase, you have a different number of students that you can enroll inside. So we'll go over that at the end so you know exactly how many you're able to enroll. But a typical class, if you just sign up as a Teacher Success Pack, would give you a year subscription for one teacher and 35 students. So when you go in and you create your free trial, you get that for 30 days for free to play with. So what you're going to do is when you sign up for your free trial, you would click on Create a Classroom, and I'm just going to call this MTA class, and you would choose your grade level. You can go in, pick whatever grade. I'm going to choose NA, and I'm going to create this class. So now I can see that I have my MTA class here. So if I click into this, it's going to show me that I don't have any students currently enrolled. So what you are able to do is you can one by one add students if you wanted to, or you can add multiple students where you would take your Excel spreadsheet of all your students in your class. You would be able to upload all of your students in here just by copying and pasting. There just needs to be a different name on each line, and then it will automatically import everything in. So you can batch enroll. The other way that you can enroll too is if you are using Clever inside of your schools. So you would be able to use Clever to enroll your students automatically as well. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add myself here, and I want to show you one of the neat things that happens as I do this. So on the back end, I'm adding in the student's full name, my full name. However, when I go in and I were to add this student in a moment, it would then allow me to it'll automatically append the student's last name. So we're never giving out that student's last name. It does it automatically. So if I go in here and I type in Mike Lorian and I click into the next box, it automatically just shortens that last name for me, and then I would click add. So now I have 2 students that are in here. So we're going to go in and we're going to use this class here for this demo. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here is at the top where it says SRGTB. This is the code that you are going to be giving your students. Every teacher has their own code that you would provide your students. So when students visit code.makewonder.com, they're going to have to enroll into your class. And I'm going to show you how that works. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to visit at the top. I'm just going to go to code.makewonder.com. And I'm going to click on Play with Dash and Dot. So now it's logging me in. It shows that I'm connected to a class. I'm going to disconnect my class here. And now when I visit code.makewonder.com, you can see in the top right-hand corner, it says Class Connect. So in order for the students to be connected to your account, they need to sign in with Class Connect. So they will go and click on the Class Connect button here. They're going to type in the teacher code, which was found inside of our Class Connect backend. They're going to name their device. So I'm just going to call this Brian's computer, and I'm going to click Connect. So now it shows the teacher's name, it shows the device, and now I'm going to go to Profiles. And it says you can now access Class Connect and Classrooms and Profiles. So because I have an account that allows me to enroll more than just one class of 35 students, I'm able to create more classes. When the students log in, they would have to find their class. So in this case, they would find the MTA class. They would look for their name inside of the list. So here I am, Brian M. I'm going to click inside of this. And now it says, welcome back, Brian M. So no matter what device I log in with, I just need to know that teacher code, because if I'm using this on a computer at school and then I go home, I'm going to have to log in with that teacher code, tie my device to it, and then it will let me log in and access my account from where I left off. So everything is living in the cloud right now. And now what this will do is this will allow me to go in and work through my puzzles. So it's blinking at me and saying puzzles. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to introduce me as I do this to Dash's neighborhood. Now what we have here is we have a series of Blockly puzzles that are currently locked. It will unlock the puzzles as I progress through, and I successfully complete each of those puzzles. So again, this is all aligned with our scope and sequence, and I'm going to show you how you can see that in a moment as well too. So I'm going to click into this first one, which is Dash's driving school. It says, Dash needs your help. Teach Dash to drive safely around the Wonder Workshop neighborhood square, which is full of surprises. So it gives me a full screen little intro window here to Dash's neighborhood. So you can see that we've created this beautiful environment that Dash is able to interact inside of. And what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to code Dash inside of this environment. So we have our full Dash robot. We have some even hidden Easter eggs that are in here as well that you'll be able to play around and try to find. And the students love seeing how Dash can interact with the world as well because of that. So now once I've gone through that little intro screen, and you can skip that, there's a skip button in the bottom right-hand corner for it. It gives me my first scaffolded lesson. And it starts off just with basic sequencing because it starts in level A for kindergarten and slowly progresses. Now, you might be a 5th grade teacher and you might be saying, my students are familiar with coding. Where do I go? Do I just push them through everything? Do they start from scratch? I always recommend starting from the beginning because it will reinforce the activities and the concepts, and it familiarizes the students with the way Dash's neighborhood works. So don't skip them ahead. I'll show you how you can do that, but don't skip them ahead. Have them go through, and they will quickly run through all of these because they would have already been familiar with maybe some of these concepts. But for those students that are not familiar with all the concepts, they're going to get to a point where they're going to struggle. And we want to find where that point is because we're going to be able to use some of the great resources inside of Dash's neighborhood to help differentiate the learning for that student. So let's do this first puzzle. It says press the start button at the bottom left of your screen to get Dash's engine going. So all I'm going to do here, and it's telling me what to do, is I'm just going to press the start button. That's it. So it says good job, and it's going to progress and move me through the next puzzle. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the first 3 with you. It says connect the blocks to teach Dash how to drive forward, then press the start button to run your program. So I'm going to take the forward block, I'm going to snap it underneath. I'm going to press the play button. I can see Dash move forward. It says good job. And now I'm going to move on to the next one. So again, I can see that I have a couple more to go here. The rest of them are all grayed out. So I'm currently on this one here. It says drag and stack one of the blocks from the drive menu to teach Dash how to drive backward. So now what I can do is I can go in here into our drive block bin, and you can see that all the other bins are completely grayed out because we have not yet learned what those do yet. But we can see also that there are blocks that are grayed out because we have not yet introduced students to those particular blocks. We are only working with the backwards block right now. So I'm going to drag in here. I'm going to drag in the backwards block, and I'm going to press play. So Dash drives backwards. It says good job. Yeah. And it progresses forward. Now it says unscramble the blocks to teach Dash how to drive forward, backward, and forward again. So now we're getting into rearranging and building a correct sequence. So I'm going to mess this one up. All right. So it wants us to go forwards, then backwards, then forwards again. So I'm going to do forward, forward, backwards. And let's see what happens. Drives forward, and it shows us that this block is incorrect. So that's great because it's telling the student that they've run into trouble. But now for you as the teacher, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look inside of our portal here, and let's go into the Blockly dashboard. So now I can see that I have completed 3 of these Blockly puzzles successfully because there's a checkbox. So I can see the first puzzle, second puzzle, third puzzle's done. The 4th puzzle, I ran into some trouble with. So let's see what's going on here. Let's diagnose this for this student. So let's go in here. Let's click on the exclamation mark to get an idea as to what's happening. So now, when I click on the exclamation mark, it shows me what the student did on the left-hand side and that it is incorrect because the exclamation mark is there. It also shows me that the student has spent less than 1 minute on this. So they might still be working through it. So I'm going to let that student continue to progress and move forward. But if it's starting to show that they're taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's a concern for you as the teacher. So what I can do is I can see on the right-hand side of the screen what the suggested solution is. So now I can go to that student and I can tap them on the shoulder, or I can bring them into a breakout room if you're doing like Zoom education learning. You can then understand where the student went wrong without you ever doing this puzzle before. So that's a huge piece of help for you. And then I'm able to work with that student. But maybe I'm learning that that student is struggling with this particular concept. So inside of every single one of these puzzles, we have the More button. And inside of this More button, we do a couple of things for you as the educator. The first thing that we provide you is puzzle walkthroughs and extensions. So this will give you a layout of all of the puzzles that the students are working on for this particular block of lessons inside of driving school. So we get a description of what they're working on, that there's 12 lessons that are a part of this one. We get through the learning procedure so we understand what it is that they're actually learning and the concepts that are being covered, so we understand what terminology the students are learning. Then we have vocabulary, so we can make sure that we as the educator are speaking the correct way, because we want to use the right vocabulary when we're referring to computer science terms. Then it includes some reflection questions, so we might be able to use this to just get some feedback from the student to see what their level of understanding is. And then it goes into extension activities for each one of these. So if a student is struggling, we want them to do a little bit more, we can pull from these extension activities that allow them to easily continue using the tools that they've experienced. It also shows inside of here the solutions on screen to all of the challenges. So we can see here that we were working on number 4. So here's that number 4 that the student was working on. So this is the correct solution. We can also see what's coming up next because we have all of them laid out. So we can see that they need to delete a block here. And you can go through and see everything that it is that they would be completing for this particular set of challenges. Then it also, for the US, aligns to Common Core standards, but pulls out what those concepts are that they are learning. So having this as a resource is extremely helpful. Then we even go one step further. We provide physical challenge cards that we recommend the student use as they are going through to reinforce some of these skills as well. We also link out to the coding level. So as I mentioned and I showed you earlier, we have our coding levels. So if I click on this, it'll link out directly to coding level A. And these are some lessons that I could use to teach the students some of these concepts. So since we're introducing them to sequencing, I might want to use this lesson all about lights, sounds, and animations. And we have a full lesson here that is an hour-long lesson that you would then teach those students about those concepts. We give you all of the materials that they need, all of the presentation materials. We go through some review questions, your direct instruction material. So we actually give you the script that you would follow, some puzzle activities that the students can work on, some guided practice activities, independent practice. We also go into a wrap up. So you can do presentations or assessments, and then we cover those educational standards as well. So there's so much that's packed inside of these. Then below that, we know the importance of being able to speak the terminology, as I mentioned. So we cover what coding and robotics concepts and cross-curricular connections there are that are being made as well. So as you're speaking to parents or your administrator, you can easily pull out some of this terminology and say, my students learned sequencing today, and they were able to read with accuracy, and they were able to look for repeated reasoning. And we even pull in computational thinking as well in here too. And they were working on algorithmic thinking and developing a sequence of steps. So this is just some great extra resources that you can pull out inside of each one of these. So I can do this for every single one of these puzzles. So I don't have to wait until a student completes this. I can click on any one of these and get an idea as to what the student would be working on. So all you would do is scroll across and you would find, which one you wanted to learn more about. You can click on it and get all those extra activities that are found in here as well. So that's extremely helpful. The other thing that I want to show you is the ability to unlock challenges. So if a student is really struggling and you want them to move along, you have the ability of going in and clicking on any of these open gray blocks and choosing a student and telling that you're going to unlock it up to a certain point. So if I want to unlock, if I want to skip all of driving school, I can go here, I can click the unlock button, and all challenges up to Dash the Snowman are now unlocked. You can see that it's changed from gray to white. And now when the student goes in here and they start working, and I'll refresh this here. Go back to code.makewonder.com. And I jump back in here. And when the student goes back in to continue to work on this, and they go into their puzzles, they would then be able to jump in and continue where they left off. So let me just make sure here that I have the correct profile chosen. Yep, MTA. And then you would be able to continue where they left off. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding as to way the Dash's neighborhood works inside of here. And again, all of it scaffolds inside of our puzzles and the portal. So you can go in and you can easily get an idea. So I'm going to show you quickly. I worked with a set of teachers over the summer and had them go in and work through all of these. And you can see that some teachers got much further than others, some completed, but some teachers started struggling. And you can even go in and see, this particular teacher was really struggling here with understanding some of the loops and the repeat functionality. She spent 11 minutes on it. So me as the instructor, I'd be able to go in and I'd be able to help diagnose what they may have been running into and give them some assistance. So that gives a little bit of a feeling as to the back end with Class Connect. But what I want to show you is just some more of what we are able to do inside of our coding platform here. So we saw puzzles that give you a scope and sequence, but what about for when students want to just freely go in and code? So if I go in and I click Create New, I can build a blank project here. And now I'm brought into just a free sandbox that I can go in and code. So I can see here the entire layout of Dash's neighborhood. I can even make this full screen. I can zoom in and out using my scroll wheel, or if I pinch to zoom, you can get different views of where you're working. One of the views that I love here is this above view that I'd be able to go in and code, and you would be able to see where the students are working. So this grid that you see here, this dark orange outline, is the exact same size as our physical mat. So every single one of these squares are 30 by 30 centimeter squares. And inside of there are the smaller squares, which are 10 by 10 centimeters. So that allows your students to be able to prototype and build their code inside of here. And then when they are ready, they can physically connect a Dash robot to the code that they're working on. So I'm going to power on my Dash here, wake them up. And I'm going to search for Dash inside of here. And it might not let me right now because I'm running on a different machine. I have to restart my machine. But it would allow you to go in and search for a Dash robot on your machine. So you'd be able to pair it directly to your computer. And then that way, if you built some code and let's say we want Dash to drive forward 50 centimeters and then turn right 90 degrees. And then we'll repeat that 4 times. We will then be creating what shape? A square. So now if I go in and I click play, I can watch on Dash's neighborhood Dash drive in the shape of a square. And then when I pair my robot to this, I'd be able to watch the physical robot do exactly what I was seeing on screen, doing the same distance that Dash was doing on screen. So I would be able to know exactly where on the mat it would end up. So that's really powerful, having the ability to do that. But again, as we mentioned, we could do every single thing that Dash is able to do except accessories. And that's stuff that we're working on right now and we'll be continuing to release. So what I want to show you are just some of the things that we can do inside of here, because as I mentioned, we can do everything Dash does with the physical robot. So we saw some driving, we saw some turning, which is able to be done. We also have the ability to do all of our light colors. So we're going to have this rotate through. Let's have it rotate through 3 colors here. So we can do that. So red, green, and yellow. When we hit play, you can see that the colors are changing on screen. For Dash, we can even go through and kind of rotate this around a little bit and zoom in so you can see that happening as well. So you're able to prototype out some of those lights. We can also do things like for lights, let's do an eye pattern. So we can turn on and off some of the lights on Dash. So now if I go in and I click play, we can see those lights light up inside of Dash's eyes, just like we would with the physical Dash robot, which is fantastic, having that capability. We can also do things like sounds. So we're able to record the sounds, or we have the sounds that Dash already has, like that are already built in. Hi. Like hi. But I could go in and I can record my voice if I wanted to and add in my own sounds, just like I would with the Blockly app on a device, like an iPad or an Android device. So all I would do is click the record button. It's going to count down. Hey, everyone, it's great to be working with our friends in Australia today. And then if I save that now. Hi. Hey, everyone, it's great to be working with our friends in Australia today. So it plays back the sounds that I recorded. Now, one thing to note is that when I am working on the sounds, it only is living inside of my profile. So if I were to share my program with someone else, the sounds do not transfer. And that is a data privacy piece that we ensured is in there because we don't want students giving their personal identifiable information, like saying their name or their address or their birth date or things that are important. So if I'm going to share the code that I'm creating, because we can share what we've created, it does not bring in any of the sounds that were recorded. So just keep that in mind, which is extremely important. We also have the ability to do things like all of our fun animations. But the question that people always have is, well, how do we do sensors? Because Dash is a robot that has sensors on it. And you're right. If we look at our digital Dash, our virtual Dash, we have the same sensors on the front. So we have our distance and proximity sensors on the front. We have it on the back as well. So those are there. We also have at the top, we have our sound output here. So you can see that we've really spent a lot of time modeling everything as closely to the robot as possible. So how does this work with sensors? Well, what we are able to do, and I'm going to set this so it kind of runs through everything that we just created here, we can test out these sensors. So what you'll notice is when I drop on a block that includes sensors, such as the start when Dash top button is pressed, a new little button appears here called Robot Inputs. So at the top of our Dash robot, we have robot inputs that what I would physically press, right? Well, there's that center top white button that looks just like the center top white button that we have here. So now when I drag on my code and I click play, it does nothing. It sits and waits because I have not gone and pressed the top button. And I'm not pressing the top button on a physical Dash. I'm coming over here and it's blinking at me. I'm going to press it on our virtual Dash. So now when I click on this, it's going to press it and it's going to run through that sequence that we've
Hey
created.
everyone, it's great to be working with our friends in Australia today.
So that's, one of those inputs that we can do. Well, Dash has a lot of inputs that we can do, right? So we have the button presses. We also have the distance and proximity sensors in the front and the back. We have the hand clapping, so it can listen for clapping sounds or our voice. It also recognizes if it's being picked up. It also recognizes if there's something in front of it. So we can do all of that stuff in here. So let's take a look at what happens if Dash sees an object in front, on the side, or behind. All those sensors will operate the same way. It would just depend where it's being input from. So how do we trigger a sensor going off from behind a robot? Well, normally what I would be doing is I'd be putting my hand in front of the robot and it would go through and then start the program. Well, how do we do it virtually? Well, let's see what happens here. So I'm going to press the play button. Again, it does nothing in the sequence because I've not yet triggered it with its sensor input. So now it's saying, all right, let's see what happens when I press this object behind. And a virtual hand comes down and then runs the program. So we've incorporated a virtual hand inside of this to play around with as well. So we can get that sense of what's happening in its environment. Dash will also interact to what's happening inside of its physical environment. So if I'm close to a tree or if I'm close to the goat right there, and no, Mike, not Tom Brady, greatest of all time. It's a physical goat or an animal goat that's hidden right here. If we're near that stuff, you're able to, run into that or sense that as well. So keep that in mind that it will interact with your environment by using it. So we have the ability to do object behind. Well, let's take a look at picking something up. So normally I would take my Dash and I would pick it up and it would run the program. So this time what happens when I hit play and I press the pickup button? Well, a hand comes in and picks up the robot. And if you notice, it's even modeling the right way that you should be picking up the robot. You should never pick up the robot from its head, like I was showing. You should pick it up from one of the outer, body parts here on Dash. So we can see that it runs and brings the hand in the correct spot to pick it up as well, to model, again, correct procedure for handling our robots. So we have all of this built in here. And this is just adding to that level of possibilities for what we can do with Dash, especially from a coding perspective. Now, we know that there are things missing inside of here, right? And those are things that we are working on, I promise you. So one of the things that we know people want are the ability for you to add in additional objects, like being able to build out a virtual maze or being able to put things in the way of Dash or move and push things. Those are things that our engineers are already working on, and that stuff will be coming out as we continue to move forward. But one of the other huge requests that we received was from all of our Wonder League Robotics coaches. And they wanted a way to be able to prototype some of the movement that Dash was doing inside of the virtual robot simulator, because they're working remotely with a lot of their students before they get into the building and construction stage. So what we were able to do here is we created this new little button here, which changes the camera view, and it inputs and creates the Wonder League Robotics Competition Challenge mat that we use. So you would be able to prototype all of Dash's movements from cell to cell inside of this using this particular screen. Now, again, we're working on things like being able to add in solo cups or red cups in the future, but that's stuff that is coming down the line. So the first part of this was being able to add in and put in a mat here that mimics the Wonder League Robotics Competition map. But that's just the start of it, right? So what we're going to be working and continuing to build out is the ability for us to swap out what this map might look like right now, right? So down the road, you might be able to drop in here a country map. So if you want students to get from one side of Australia to the other, they would have to measure out the distance in order to do that. And they would be able to put in a map of the country or a map of the world or a life cycle that you want the students to follow, or even a number line. So those are all things that we are currently working on that will just continue to enhance the possibilities of what we're able to do with Dash. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen here, we have some other things that I want to quickly show, which are, all of the things like controls and variables. Everything that you were able to do with Dash before is here, but this bin here, accessories, is not yet virtual, but it is in here because, again, you can prototype and build your code here. And you would be able to attach a physical launcher to your robot and run the program, or a gripper, or a marker up, marker down. We are working on being able to add the sketch kit to this as well too. So that would be one of the first accessories that we go in and we add in here also. So you would be able to, in the future, use the sketch kit also. But even without having that, we have so many lessons and activities that are available for your students to interact with and use in here. Now that I've built this code, and one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with a class or with students is I like to, mess up my sequence here, but I want my students to work on what I've just built, right? So I want them to take this and I want them to build out a sequence. So what I'm able to do here is I can go in to this little button here and I can name my project. And this is only locally, so it's whatever I name it, but I'm just going to call this MTA. And then I'm going to click the share button and I'm going to upload my project. So now what I've done is I've generated a code, and I can give this to my students, or I as the student, can build my program and share my code to another student, and they can then take it, download it, and remix it. Or I may have taken this code and completed it, and I need to give it to my teacher and submit it. So I would take this code and I would do any of those things with it. So I'm going to click here. It'll copy it to clipboard, and then I'll press the arrow over button. I'm going to back out so we can see what happens here, and I'm going to create a new program. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to click on my projects, and I'm going to click the download button. And now I'm going to paste in that code that I created. So I want my students to download the broken up, rearranged sequenced code, and I want them to run it in and put it in their correct sequence. So now I would click the download button, and there it is. It's sitting right there in the exact order that I set it up for my students. I'll click the save button. It'll let me save it locally. And now I can go in and I can rearrange this into whatever that correct sequence was. I don't even remember at this point. But then I can take it and then I can share this back with my teacher. So now I can take this new code, which is what I created, and now I can share it with the teacher, and they would be able to have access to my finished project. So when they add this to their account, they would be able to see what the student completed. So just some really great, simple ways to go in and, use Dash's Neighborhood as a teaching tool. The possibilities here are endless. And the fact that we have the ability to use this for teaching a lot of these concepts to students without a physical robot is so important. So I'm going to jump on to the next slide here. So Mike, you want to go through the different packs while I take a drink of water here?
Sure. Now, in order to purchase Class Connect, we have really 3 different options for schools. One, if I'm an individual teacher, we have something called the Teacher Success Pack, which includes, as Brian said earlier, a license for the teacher, a license for 35 students in their classroom. Plus, we give the teacher access to our cross-curricular library, which has over 100 different lessons against 8 different subject areas to choose from. They also have access to Teach Wonder professional development. So they're able to go through at their own leisure our professional development class, as again, they want to build their own skills in teaching with Dash and our robots. And then finally, we also have exclusive webinars. So once a quarter, we have a webinar specifically for teachers who've enrolled in Class Connect. And they're able to, again, advance their skills. We show them the latest things because remember, as Brian said, we're continually adding functionality to Class Connect. And so the value of the subscription increases as you go along. The second thing that we've done is that we found, that in many school situations, a couple of teachers are assigned to teach computer science, much like they teach physical education, other different subject areas where there's a specialist teacher for that. And so that's why we have the Team Teaching Success Pack. So we have 2 teachers, and typically in elementary schools, we'll have K-2 teacher and a 3-5 teacher working with different kids. But in this case, it's a 2 teacher license, but a 500 student access. In other words, for most elementary schools, every student in the school is covered license-wise. So you really don't have to do anything about counting students and things like that. You just get this license. And again, it provides those 2 teachers the same kind of support tools that the Teacher Success Pack has for the individual teacher. And then for a school success pack, we look at 25 teachers and again, the entire school having this capability to engage in the program. For schools who really want to take computer science and integrate it into the everyday classroom. And so we give the teachers the tools for that. So again, 3 different license sets. What you should do is contact MTA. They can give you the Australian pricing for these. In US dollars, the Teacher Success Pack goes for $395 for a single teacher. The Team Teaching Success Pack, again, covers all the students in the school plus 2 teachers, goes for $1,695. And then the School Success Pack in the US goes for $3,995. Now, if you were to give remember we talked about every student in the school having access to robotic functionality here. If you would have had to do that with a physical robot, it would cost 10 times that in order to implement that program. So again, it gives us a way with a very low cost option for teachers to really implement school-wide the coding and robotics program.
So we're happy to jump in and answer any questions if you have them. You can feel free to use the chat, or I'm guessing that you can even go in and unmute your mic if you'd like as well too. And we're happy to answer any questions. We also have, again, our contact information on screen here. So you can feel free to reach out to Mike or myself if you have questions. But of course, you would want to reach out to MTA for pretty much anything locally for you all as well.
And Eva, do you have that pricing on those 3 packs for Australia?
Yes, I am just looking it up now on our website.
Okay, when you're ready, let me know.
Yes, the teacher pack. So that is the 1 teacher, 35 students is $499.95. Then we have the team pack, 2 teachers, 500 students is $2,669.95. And then we go to the school success pack, and that one is $3,995. So sorry, $3,999.95. That was a mouthful.
Great.
I can also drop that into the.
So it's a great deal if you're in Australia. That's good. The exchange rate works.
So Sophie,
any questions you have?
I'm sure.
Sorry?
I said Sophie asked that question what the pricing was, so thanks for sharing that.
I will also drop that into the chat for everyone.
Other questions?
Questions?
You're welcome. It's our pleasure sharing the ideas and ways that you can use this. It's such a powerful tool. It's definitely something that teachers were very excited about when we launched this. So when we launched this back, as I mentioned, in April. We weren't originally planning to launch this until June of this past year, to align with the ISTE conference, the International Society for Technology and Education conference, that was originally scheduled for June. But because of COVID, we had already been working on Dash's Neighborhood for almost a year before that. And we were seeing that this is where we wanted to move and start getting students more involved, because this is all around, making sure that students have access to this anytime, anywhere. And we wanted students to be able to use this, use our robots wherever, learning took place for them. So we launched this back in April, a couple months ahead of time. So we have been, spending a lot of our development time adding functionality inside of Dash's neighborhood, and I'm really excited. I mentioned some of the stuff that we're releasing for it, but I can't mention everything. But we are spending a lot of time with development and making sure that this is a really robust platform that teaches the concepts for students while they still can have fun, but also not take away from the physical computing side of this, right? I have to reiterate the importance of physical computing, especially when things get back to some sort of normal, whatever normal might look like. The physical tangibility side of using a robot is so important. The students are able to absorb the information a lot more. They're able to relate to it, what's happening inside of their real world. It gets them off screen also, right? I mean, especially right now, we're spending so much time on screen, and we're trying to make sure that students are able to continue learning in a virtual environment. But the power of using something physical and tangible is really such an important piece of learning for students, and they're not getting that right now. So as they come back through into schools, pull out the robots, and it's great because you won't need as many robots as we've mentioned, right? You might only need now 3, 4, 5 robots for your classroom. And while all the other students are working on their code, then when one student is ready, they would then pair to an available robot and test it out, and then unpair and continue working and continue prototyping, right? So it's such a great piece having the ability to use both. And we don't ever want to take away from using the physical side of our robots as well.
Hey, Brian, do you think you could bring up the those math challenges?
Sure.
So one of the things, just so you have an idea of where we're headed with this, it's one thing to teach programming skills, so the whole notion of learn to code. But we think it's vital, in order to get this in the everyday classroom, is to implement what we call code to learn. And so one of the areas that we're really focused on is the area of math. And so one thing that we're doing is we're building out a whole set. So just like you saw the learn to code puzzles and activities, we're also building out a set of math activities for elementary school so that you could implement this in your everyday 90-minute math block, or however many minutes in Australia you do that every day. But here's an example. We put some kind of our initial thoughts in for people to try within Dash's neighborhood. And so maybe, Brian, you could maybe go through Dash shapes for third grade.
Sure. So what we've done here, as Mike mentioned, is we are slowly adding in math concepts in a scaffolded scope and sequence that cover all math concepts for grades K through 5. We are going to be building out specifically, really diving in for grades 3, 4, and 5 to start, and then we're going to go in and do K1 and 2. But you can do some really great things with all these grade levels. But we do have some lessons in here as we get started. Now you can go in and you can filter off. So Mike said third grade, and if I click filter, it would pull out, the third grade lesson. And we're adding more and more in here each and every 2 or 3 weeks. You can also then search by domain for what it is that you're teaching. But as I go in here, I'm able to see that students would be able to understand shapes in this case. So if I click into this, it would pull out the standards for this particular lesson. And then it goes in and it gives a program key that you can use to download. So you can punch this in where I was able to take one of my saved programs and load up the program. You would do the same thing here. And it gives you the activity that you can work on. It gives you the description of what the students would be working on, the objectives, the coding skills, and then it goes into a really in-depth lesson on, in this case, shapes. So we're teaching Dash moving in a square and doing a square dance. So you're able to go in here and see exactly what all those are, the overview, your introduction and hooks, so we get you started with that, some direct instruction materials, so we include even videos, guided practice activities, your independent practice, and then even additional supporting activities. So every single one of these types of lessons are laid out in this particular fashion. And we also include the program keys that the students can work on. And we have plans to do this. As I mentioned, we're over the rest of this year, we're going to be rolling out the rest of grades 3, 4, and 5 math concepts, and then we will be moving into grades K1 and 2. So when you sign up for the free trial, or you sign up and you use Dash's Neighborhood, you would have access to all of this. And as this shows, this is in beta because we are getting feedback from teachers. We're going in and we're constantly adding a lot more in here as well. So all that's available to you, along with, as Mike mentioned, we do have all of our other curriculum in here as well too. So if I go into the cross-curricular lesson library in here, you have access to all of the other subject areas as well too. It's not as nicely laid out as math is. We will be relaying out all of this as well and realigning a lot of the stuff. We have a new curriculum person that is helping us do all of that within Wonder Workshop. So this will slowly be migrating over. But if you're looking for a science activity and you're looking for a particular grade level, we have tons and tons of lessons that are available in here for you to download and use. And everything that's marked premium with the subscription, you would have access to. So you would get access to every single one of our lessons with the Class Connect subscription.
Mm-hmm. So you can kind of see how we're starting to move this concept into the everyday classroom. But the key to there, as we see it, is making sure you have the content to work on around that. And the great thing with it is that in our pricing scheme, that's all you do is buy Class Connect, and we'll continue to add more content, more functionality to both the robot and to what you're available to teach. Well, and I think we're pretty close to time here. So if you don't have any further questions, we're happy to answer any ones you might have in the future. You have our contact information there. Or again, you can always contact Modern Teaching Aids in Australia directly. The last thing that I'll pitch you for is that Brian is running a program that's called the Wonder Squad. And we're currently taking applications for new Wonder Squad members. And we would love to have some Wonder Squad members in Australia. And so if you can look at our website, and Brian, maybe you can share the link with them.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
But we're taking applications for our Wonder Squad members for this year. And we'll be selecting them over the next, 4 or 5 weeks now. And really, it's a great opportunity to be a member of a community of quote unquote Wonder Workshop experts. And
yeah, and we have people from all across the world. We have about 50 Wonder Squad members each year that we introduce into the program. So we have some friends from Australia that have done a bunch of stuff with us. But we just opened this up a couple weeks ago. This will run until the end of November, and then we will be announcing the new Wonder Squad members in December. So you have 2 or 3 weeks to get that stuff in. There is some pieces that you do need to submit, like a Flipgrid video of you explaining just some questions that we have. We give all that stuff for you inside of the application. You can start the application and you can save it, and then you can go back to it at a later time. So you don't have to feel like you have to sit there and do it all at once. So be sure to follow that link and you can check that out. And we would love to see more of our friends from Australia taking part.
Great. Any final words, Eva?
No, other than that, I would like to thank you both very, very much, because I know that it is a very late time for you there on the other side of the world. So thank you very much. I think it was really informative, and even I learned a lot more today. So I hope that everyone found it as informative as what I thought of it. And also thank you very much everyone who joined the webinar. and make time to learn more about Dash's neighborhood and about Cars Connect. We will send you all a link to this webinar and also to the other additional information on where you can start your free trial and that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I think that was it from our end. And just again, thank you all, both Brian and Mike and everyone else who attended.
All right.
So have a lovely evening or like sleep, I guess. And we'll chat soon.
Good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.